In the heart of Owerri, the capital city of Imo State, there lived a man known far and wide as Chief John. He was a billionaire, a man whose name opened doors in every corner of Nigeria. Chief John had built an empire that touched almost every part of business life in the country. He owned mighty hotels that lit up the streets of Owerri at night, real estate estates that stretched into Abuja and Lagos, shopping malls where thousands of people bought goods daily, and importation companies that brought in containers from Europe and Asia. His motor spare parts business supplied almost every mechanic in Imo State, and his vast farmland was so large that people said it was bigger than some villages. Above all this, Chief John had strong investments in oil and gas, the golden business that brought him closer to the level of the wealthiest men in Nigeria. In Owerri, people called him Chief with respect. When he passed by, drivers stopped their cars, and market women paused to greet him. His name carried both fear and admiration. Some people praised him for his generosity, while others whispered dangerous stories about him. It was said that Chief John belonged to one of the deadliest occult groups in the land. Some claimed he had seen things that ordinary men could not understand, things that belonged to the spirit world. Yet, no one ever dared to ask him directly, for his influence stretched into politics, security, and even the church. What made Chief John even more respected was his charity work. He was a strong member of the Catholic Church in Owerri. Many priests in the town drove cars that Chief John had bought for them. He donated millions of naira to church projects, renovated old buildings, sponsored choir festivals, and supported Catholic schools. To many, he was a blessing from God, but to others, he was a man living a double life, mixing the altar of the church with the shrine of dark powers. But behind all the glamour, Chief John was a man under pressure. His businesses, though mighty, faced strong opposition. His rivals were growing fast. Men who had once looked up to him were now competing with him neck to neck. Some even overtook him in certain sectors. The battles were not just economic, they also stretched into politics and even the spiritual world. Chief John found himself in constant struggles, lawsuits in court, power struggles in government, and strange accidents that attacked his companies. His rivals were ready to crush him, and he knew he needed more than money to fight back. One hot afternoon, Chief John was driving along Douglas Road, one of the busiest roads in Owerri. The street was crowded with traders, buses, and Okada riders shouting for passengers. As his tinted black SUV rode slowly through the traffic, his sharp eyes caught something unusual by the roadside. Sitting under a broken shade was a young girl, looking weak and hungry. Her clothes were torn, and dust covered her skin. She had no shoes on her feet. People walked past her without care, but Chief John slowed down and looked at her again. Something about the girl struck him deeply. Maybe it was the emptiness in her eyes or the way she tried to cover her shame with her thin hands. Chief John called his driver to stop the car. He wound down the glass and spoke to her. "What is your name, young girl?" he asked in his deep, commanding voice. The girl raised her head slowly, her lips trembling. "My name is Deborah," she whispered. Her voice was so soft that Chief John almost did not hear it. He looked at her again and saw beyond the dust, beyond the weakness. There was something about this girl, something hidden, something powerful, though she did not know it herself. "Come with me," Chief John said. He opened the back door of his SUV and asked her to enter. The crowd stared in shock. Who was this girl that Chief John, the mighty billionaire, was taking into his car? Deborah herself was confused but too weak to resist. She stepped into the air-conditioned car, and for the first time in years, she felt comfort. Chief John took her straight to his mansion on the outskirts of Owerri. The house was like a palace, with tall gates, marble floors, and golden furniture. Servants rushed to attend to her. Within minutes, she was given new clothes, food, and a clean room. Deborah could not believe her eyes. Just that morning, she had begged for food on the street, and now she was in the house of one of the richest men in the land. Days turned into weeks, and Chief John continued to treat her kindly. Deborah began to look more beautiful as she regained her strength. She was grateful and loyal, ready to do anything for Chief John. But what she did not know was that Chief John had not taken her in out of pure kindness. Deep inside him, he had a plan. He had seen something in her that ordinary eyes could not see. He knew she was the perfect vessel for the kind of power he needed to fight his rivals. And so, while Deborah enjoyed her new life, Chief John began to prepare for something that would change her destiny forever. Chief John's mansion in Owerri was like a palace, but hidden beneath its shining walls was something darker, something that only he and a few trusted servants knew about. Beneath the marble floors, behind locked iron doors, and down a winding staircase lay his underground chamber. This was not an ordinary basement. It was a secret altar built many years ago when Chief John first joined the deadly occult group that gave him wealth and protection. The chamber was wide and cold, with red candles burning endlessly. On the floor were strange marks and symbols, drawn with white chalk and dried blood. At the center stood a stone altar, black as night, with a large golden python carved into it. On the walls hung masks, charms, and cowrie shells. The air was thick with the smell of incense, and anyone who entered could feel a heavy presence pressing on their chest. It was here that Chief John brought Deborah one silent night. She had grown into a beautiful young woman under his care, her ebony skin shining, her figure curved and strong. She trusted Chief John completely, not knowing what he was about to do with her. "Deborah," Chief John said, his deep voice echoing in the chamber. "Do you want to remain the helpless girl I found on the street, or do you want to become a queen of power, feared and respected by all?" Deborah looked into his eyes and nodded slowly. "I want to be great, Chief. I want to serve you." Chief John smiled. That was the answer he had been waiting for. He moved to the altar, lit fresh candles, and began to chant in a strange language that Deborah could not understand. The ground seemed to tremble slightly as he spoke. He brought out a black calabash filled with a dark liquid and handed it to Deborah. "Drink this," he commanded. Without hesitation, she drank. The bitter taste burned her throat, and her eyes rolled back. Suddenly, her body began to shake violently. She screamed as her skin felt like it was tearing apart, her bones stretching, her voice turning into a hiss. Before her very eyes, Deborah's body twisted and changed into a mighty python, larger than any snake known in the forest. Her dark scales shone like polished ebony, her eyes glowed like fire, and her tongue flickered with deadly power. Chief John raised his hands and laughed. "Yes. Rise, my mighty serpent. You are no longer Deborah alone. You are my weapon, my shield, my secret army. From tonight, you will strike down my enemies one by one." Then he placed his hand on her head and whispered, "Your first mission is Chief Clark. He dares to challenge me. You will go to him, and you will destroy him." The fall of Chief Clark. It was a Saturday evening in Owerri. The streets of New Owerri were alive with music, flashing lights, and laughter. Expensive cars moved up and down, their headlights shining bright. Standing by the roadside was Deborah, dressed in a short gown, looking like one of the night girls hunting for men. She looked harmless, yet behind her beautiful face was the soul of a deadly python waiting for command. Soon, the sound of sirens filled the air. A convoy of black SUVs and jeeps approached, their lights sweeping across the road. Inside the lead car sat Chief Clark, one of the biggest owners of gas stations in the whole of eastern Nigeria. He was a proud man, known for his wealth and arrogance. Chief Clark had been one of the thorns in Chief John's flesh, fighting him in oil and gas deals. As the convoy slowed down, Chief Clark's eyes caught Deborah. She was standing tall, her ebony skin glowing under the street lights, her body curved in a way that drew his attention immediately. He could not resist. "Stop the car," Chief Clark ordered. One of his guards stepped out and walked to Deborah. "My ogre wants to see you," he said roughly. Deborah smiled gently, her eyes shining. She followed the guard without fear. When she reached Chief Clark's car, the glass rolled down. Chief Clark leaned forward, his eyes hungry as he scanned her from head to toe. "What's your name?" he asked. "Deborah," she said softly. Chief Clark smiled, pleased with her voice and beauty. After a short conversation, he invited her into the convoy. Together, they drove straight to All Seasons Hotel in Owerri, one of the most luxurious hotels in the city. There, in the VIP lounge, they ate and drank. Deborah laughed at his jokes, her beauty charming him more and more. He felt lucky that night, not knowing he was dining with death itself. Later, He took her upstairs to his VIP room. They enjoyed each other, and when it was over, Chief Clark, full of wine and pleasure, collapsed on the bed and slept off. The moment his eyes shut, Deborah's smile disappeared. Her body began to shake, her skin stretched, and before the quiet hotel room, she transformed into a giant python, her scales glistening, her eyes glowing red. With a terrifying hiss, she slithered across the room and wrapped herself around Chief Clark's sleeping body. Before he could wake, she opened her massive jaws and swallowed him whole. His body disappeared into her stomach, which bulged for a moment before it shrank back to normal. She had digested him completely. In seconds, she transformed back into a beautiful woman. She adjusted her gown, looked at the empty bed, and vanished into thin air, leaving no trace. Deborah's deadly missions. From that night, Deborah became Chief John's deadliest weapon. She continued to lure his rivals, one by one, each time using her beauty to draw them in and her serpent power to finish them. Mr. Paul, a proud importer who boasted of overtaking Chief John, disappeared mysteriously after meeting a dark-skinned beauty in Enugu. Mr. Kenneth of Ken's Oil and Gas, who had mocked Chief John openly in a political meeting, was last seen with a lady at a hotel in Port Harcourt. He was never found again. Chief Philip, another wealthy businessman, also vanished after entertaining a mysterious woman in his mansion. One by one, Chief John's rivals fell like dry leaves in Harmattan, their businesses crumbling, their families mourning without answers. People began to whisper again. They said Chief John's enemies were cursed. They said his occult powers were unmatched. Fear of him spread across the East. But as powerful as Deborah was, her story was not yet finished. One night, on another mission, she crossed paths with a man who would change everything, Chief Mike, a rival different from the rest. Chief Mike was not like the other rivals who had fallen so easily. He was clever, spiritually alert, and deeply rooted in his own occult powers. He had built his fortune through oil and gas, transport companies, and several hotels across the East. Unlike others, Chief Mike did not take sudden changes in the business world lightly. When Chief Clark and others mysteriously disappeared one after the other, he became suspicious. He knew that nothing in this world happened by chance, especially when it involved billionaires. One evening, his chief priest sent for him urgently. Chief Mike wasted no time. He left his mansion and drove straight to the sacred grove, hidden deep in the forest outside Owerri. The path was dark, lit only by the red flames of burning torches. As he entered the shrine, the air grew heavy with smoke and the smell of blood sacrifices. The walls were decorated with charms, animal skulls, and strange drawings. At the center stood the chief priest, an old man with grey dreadlocks, painted face, and eyes that seemed to see through the soul. His voice carried power as he began to speak. Chief Mike, the priest said slowly, I see danger walking toward you in the form of beauty. A woman who is not a woman, but a mighty python, sent by your rival, Chief John. Her name is Deborah. She is the one who swallowed Chief Clark, Mr. Paul, Mr. Kenneth, and Chief Philip. She is the shadow that has been destroying your fellow businessmen. Chief Mike's heart pounded, but he remained calm. So it is true, he muttered. I knew those disappearances were not ordinary. Tell me, wise one, what do I do to bring her down? The priest threw back his head and laughed, the sound echoing across the shrine. This is very simple, he said. First, you must control your sexual appetite. For Deborah's greatest weapon is her beauty, her ability to trap men through their weakness for women. If you control yourself, her power over you will break. Second, you must turn her against her own master, Chief John. Chief Mike frowned. Turn her against her master. How is that possible? The priest bent forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. He reached into a calabash and pulled out a small but powerful charm wrapped in red and black cloth. The charm pulsed as if it carried a life of its own. Take this charm, the priest said, placing it carefully in Chief Mike's hands. Listen carefully to my instructions. When you get to your own altar, summon Deborah through a mirror. She will appear. Do not fear her. When she appears, pronounce judgment on her for killing innocent men who never wronged her in any way. After that, strike this charm on the mirror 7 times. As you strike, command her to turn her tail against her master's daughter, Linda. That will break the bond between her and Chief John. From that moment, she will no longer be his weapon but his curse. Chief Mike's eyes lit with determination. He bowed before the priest and said, "So shall it be." The summoning of Deborah later that night, Chief Mike returned to his mansion. At the far end of his compound stood his private altar, a place no servant was ever allowed to enter. Inside the altar room, a large mirror stood against the wall, decorated with cowries, blood marks, and feathers. He placed the charm before the mirror, lit 7 candles, and began to chant the incantations given to him by the chief priest. The mirror started to shake as if something was alive within it. Suddenly, Deborah's image appeared. She was dressed in a red gown, her eyes glowing faintly, her beauty radiant but terrifying. "Chief Mike," she hissed, her voice echoing from the mirror, "why have you called me?" Chief Mike stood tall, his voice firm. "Deborah, I call you to pronounce judgment. You have killed men who never wronged you. Chief Clark, Mr. Paul, Mr. Kenneth, Chief Philip, all swallowed by you in cold blood. For this, you must face punishment." Deborah's eyes narrowed. She tried to laugh, but the laugh was weak. The power of the summoning was stronger than she expected. Chief Mike lifted the charm high and, with strength, struck it against the mirror. Bang! The mirror trembled. Deborah cried out. Bang! 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 Each strike made her image twist in pain. Her beautiful form began to melt, her face changing to that of a serpent, hissing loudly. Bang! 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 The 7th strike echoed like thunder. The candles flickered violently. Chief Mike pointed at her image and gave the final command. "Deborah, by the authority of this charm, you will turn your tail not against me, but against your own master. Strike Linda, the daughter of Chief John. From this moment, your bond with him is broken. You belong no longer to him, but to the judgment of the gods." The mirror cracked slightly, and Deborah vanished from sight. The altar fell silent, but Chief Mike knew that the command had entered her spirit. Something in Chief John's household was about to change forever. Trouble in Chief John's mansion that very night, inside Chief John's luxurious mansion, all was calm. Chief John's only daughter, Linda, a beautiful young woman studying abroad, had just returned home for holidays. The servants were busy preparing for a family gathering. Chief John himself was in his private study, making phone calls, unaware of the storm approaching. But in Deborah's chamber, hidden within the mansion, a strange force took over her. She fell to the floor, shaking violently, her eyes turning red, her tongue flicking like that of a serpent. She fought it, but the command in her spirit was too strong. She began to crawl toward Linda's room, her body twisting as scales appeared on her skin. The mansion that had once been a place of peace was about to be thrown into fear and confusion. The night was thick with silence in Chief John's mansion. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a pale glow over the compound. Inside, everything seemed calm, but within Deborah's chamber, something dark had awakened. The command placed on her spirit by Chief Mike's altar burned like fire in her blood. She could not resist it. Her body twisted, her eyes glowed like embers, and her long serpent tail grew heavy with deadly power. Slowly, she slithered into the corridor that led to Linda's room. The young girl was lying peacefully on her bed, scrolling through her phone, unaware of what was about to happen. As Deborah entered, her shadow stretched across the wall like a monstrous beast. She moved close, her tail flicking with precision. With one swift strike, her tail touched Linda. Immediately, Linda let out a terrifying scream. Her skin darkened, her body stretched and changed violently. In seconds, she transformed into a very deadly cobra, her hood spreading wide, her fangs dripping with venom. She hissed so loudly that the walls seemed to shake. But the transformation did not stop there. Linda's hunger as a cobra was uncontrollable. She slithered into the rooms of her siblings, one after another. That night, screams echoed across the mansion as the cobra struck. In her madness, she swallowed every one of her brothers and sisters, devouring them whole until no one was left alive. The mansion, once filled with laughter, became a place of horror. When the cobra was done, she moved with rage toward her father's room. Chief John was deep in thought when the door burst open. The sight froze him. His beloved daughter, now a monstrous serpent, hissed and struck. With a violent spray, she poured venom on him, burning his skin and filling his body with poison. Chief John collapsed, groaning in pain. He fought to call upon his altar, but the venom was stronger than his incantations. He lingered in agony for 2 full days, his wealth and power unable to save him. On the 3rd day, he died. Deborah, standing in the shadows, watched with cold eyes. She knew the command had been fulfilled. Chief John's greatest weapon had turned into his greatest curse. But she was not done yet. As Linda hissed and slithered across the floor, Deborah moved close. With her serpent form rising tall, she struck her tail against Linda. The moment their tails touched, Linda's power broke. She collapsed, hissing weakly. Deborah's jaw unhinged, and with terrifying ease, she swallowed Linda whole, ending her existence in one gulp. When it was over, silence fell on the mansion. The house that once represented power, wealth, and influence was now filled with death. Deborah lifted her head high, her scales glittering under the dim lights, before vanishing into the night. Thus ended the reign of Chief John, the mighty billionaire of Owerri, betrayed by the very weapon he created.